what's going on, everybody? It's me, Jake Rubel, the host of the podcast Laugh and Be Blessed. I wanted to do this quick intro before we got into the episode, so I'm kind of sitting here solo, just hanging out by myself. Real weird to talk into a mic whenever I'm just the only one in here and Chia's not here to make fun of me. But I wanted to do this quick intro because we have a super special episode this week. I actually had the opportunity to sit down with two different people who are amazing in their own right. One of which is Steve Rivera from Gutty's Comedy Club. He is the owner of Gutty's Comedy Club. He's a very close friend of mine, a hilarious comedian in his own right. And we sat down and we talked about clean comedy and what he's trying to do at Gutty's Comedy Club. But the other thing that I got to do that the other person sitting at the table with us was none other than legendary comedian Dennis Regan. Guys, I'm so excited about this. Just meeting him and hanging out with him was so much fun. If you don't know Dennis, you don't know comedy, I guess you could say. Dennis Regan, he was a writer for, well, first of all, he's been a stand-up comedian for a very long time. And he was a writer for the show King of Queens. He is the older brother of Brian Regan, and he's been on all the late night shows. He's got specials, dry bar comedy. He tours all over the world. He's just an amazing comedian and just a delight to hang out with. So I was so stoked that he sat down and hung out with us tonight and was able to do this podcast. And you know, he gave us a little bit of tips and tricks to help new comedians along the way. So hopefully you really enjoy that. We really get into comedy on this. I mean, this whole episode really breaks down different aspects of comedy and just different thoughts from different people on comedy. So hopefully you guys really enjoyed. I know I had a blast, but I wanted to jump on here real quick and just kind of update you guys on my calendar and let you know where I'm going to be. The first thing I want to say is that if you're listening to this before July 13th, I'm actually going to be co-hosting a podcast with Neil Snyder. We're going to be doing it Facebook Live, and it will be available on Mad Hatter Show's Facebook page. So jump on to Facebook, go like Mad Hatter's shows, and then watch for our podcast. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It is going to feature Dustin Sims, hilarious comedian Dustin Sims, viral comedian. I know you may be like, who's Dustin Sims? And then as soon as you see him, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I've laughed at this dude's videos so many times. So definitely check that out. So that's going to be July 13th at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Facebook Live Mad Hatter Shows. And then I have a show that is going to be in Winamac, Indiana, the 17th. It is going to be, I will be hosting the show for Haas Ridgeway, and there's another comedian on that show, and I should probably tell you who it is, and you know what? I'm going to tell you who it is. And you're like, oh, he's stalling because he forgot who the other person is. But I wouldn't do that. I'm not the kind of comedian to do, like, why wouldn't I just pause the show? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I just pause the show and then see who it is? That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know why you guys think different is really what I'm getting at. And you know what? It's Robert Day. Okay? It is Haas Ridgeway and Robert Day. And it is going to be Saturday, July 17th at Tippy's in Winamac, Indiana. It's going to be a super fun show. And then on... let's jump forward a little bit. So next week, which is starting on the 22nd, I will be in Oklahoma with Donnie Baker. It's going to be a great time. So Oklahoma, actually, we're going to start on the 22nd in Lawton, Oklahoma. And then on the 23rd, we're going to be in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and then the 24th, we're going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then I'll be coming back home. So for information on those, you can go to Mad Hatter Shows on Facebook, or you can simply go to DonnieBaker.com. You can get the information there as well. So I'm stoked about those shows. Donnie is always fun to hang out with. So that's the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And then the 25th, I will be back in Bloomington, Indiana at Hoppy Wobbles Pub with Adam Couch, Grant Volkmar, and Nick Cheney. 3 very, very funny comedians. I'm just stoked. It's going to be a great time. And then on July 31st, I will be back in Indiana. I'll be in Rockville, Indiana with Rob Wilfong and Haas Ridgway. And we are going to be at the Elks Lodge in Rockville, Indiana. So some great shows coming up is what I'm getting at. Like some super fun shows, some great shows. I'm going to be getting around a little bit. On August 5th, I will be at Third Coast Comedy Club in Nashville, Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know why I said Nashville, Indiana. Nashville, Tennessee. I'll be there at Third Coast Comedy Club with John Hickok and friends. And then on August 14th, I will be in Nashville, Indiana, for real this time. Like I know before, I was like, why did I say that? That's because on the 14th, I will be in Nashville, Indiana. It's actually going to be a private show for the Merry Pranksters family reunion at Mike's Music and Dance Barn, but they just recently opened it up to the public. So that means you guys can go. You can hang out with the Merry Pranksters. You can hang out with some comedians, some musicians. It's like a whole, like, 2-day festival of music and comedians. I'm going to be there Saturday night. I'll be closing the show out late Saturday night. So come out and have a good time. Like that's going to be so much fun. I'm so stoked about it. And then August 20th and 21st. I don't know. Now I'm getting pretty far out there, but that's okay. August 20th and 21st, I'm going to be back at Gutty's Comedy Club in Greenwood, Indiana, featuring for Johnny W. Johnny W is hilarious. So that's also going to be just a fantastic show. Also, I did not mention that August 8th, I will be hosting a show at Hoppy Wobbles Pub in Bloomington for Dan Alton, Jennifer Cooper, and Will Concannon. That is going to be a blast. I know I'm saying like all these shows are going to be fun, but look at my career. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm doing comedy. So why is it not going to be fun? What else is it going to be? Like if it's not fun, why am I doing it? All these shows are going to be fun. So July and August, there are so many opportunities for you to come out and see me, come out and hang out, come out and say what's up. So just choose one of them and let's do this thing. You know what I'm saying? So I love you guys very much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you guys do. I'm just excited to get into this. So I'm just going to jump right into this. Here is me sitting down with Dennis Regan and Steve Rivera.
About that for some reason. I get more. I feel like I'm like an announcery guy or something, and I got to say it perfectly. I think more in recent years I've gotten over it and I'll just goof or whatever. But I used to always coming to the stage, John. What I got to be Mr. Announcing guy? That's true. It's just a microphone.
Yeah, that's all it is. Well, welcome to this hybrid episode of Laugh and Be Blessed with your host, Jake Rubadue. I'm joined today, not with my wife as normal, but someone just as pretty. Hey. 2 people just as pretty, some would say. I'm actually hanging out tonight with somebody who you've heard me talk about a lot in the podcast, Steve Rivera, owner of Gutty's Comedy Club, and an amazing comedian who I just met for the first time tonight, Dennis Regan. So... Thanks for being here, guys.
No, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we have a couple people hanging out too. Jake Tooley's hanging out. Blake Champlin's hanging out. So,
hello.
Yeah, they're the crowd. It's this is our first live podcast performance.
Well, let's make it sound like we don't have a crowd, and if we get any laughs, we have a crowd,
and then there's nothing. So, Steve, I just kind of want to start with you. First of all, I want to thank you for having this club, Gutty's Comedy Club. I love the fact that it's in the Greenwood Mall now. I feel like we're getting a lot of traction here. Yeah. And I mean, you were the first club owner that was like, "Hey, I want to make you, one of our house comedians here." So, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here. How do you feel about everything that's going on at Gutty's right now?
To be honest with you, I feel like we're making some kind of headway and a difference, at least for clean comedy or just comedy in general. here in Greenwood.
Yeah. That's a conversation we were literally just having. It almost feels like when we say, like whenever we say clean comedy, it's like we're putting, we're almost, sometimes it feels like we're separating ourselves from comedy, and that's not the goal at all.
Right, exactly. And I feel like if we can continue to make sure that we are just putting out there, the point is comedy is comedy, and we want to be a part of it. We're just part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like we're pushing away anybody else or anything like that. So we're not trying to raise any kind of controversy or anything like that. We're not trying to do any of that. We just want to have fun.
And I feel like a lot of times whenever you say clean comedy, it's because you want to make sure that people who normally may not go to a comedy club because they don't like, filthy comedy or whatever,
right,
or just they don't know what they're going to get. If you say clean and let them know, then that just, it's almost like, hey, it's a safe space for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But then but you feel like sometimes it may do the opposite, to where people are just like, oh, clean comedy, I don't know if I want to do that.
Right, and it's just, I think it's something that we definitely want to continue to, it's almost like we want to keep pressing to everybody else to let them know that it's not necessarily we're out here, trying to do big things. We're just doing comedy.
Yeah.
And I found that there's a bigger demographic for what we're trying to do. And there's a lot of people that we're not reaching.
Sure.
And so I want to give them an opportunity to come and enjoy themselves, because a lot of it is this whole stigma of I don't want to go there because they're going to, I'm going to feel bad. And there's a lot of words that I don't want to hear. And,
sure, yeah.
And we get all different walks. It's not
I've had a lot of
like
family members who are like, I want to support you, but I don't really want to go to the show just because I don't know what I'm going to hear.
Right.
So, which is understandable.
Right, and I totally agree with that too. I agree with anyone who's like, well, I don't think it's funny enough, and I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. But what we need to do is, what I'm trying to do is trying to break that stigma, trying to break that idea that clean comedy is just not.
Yeah.
It's like your joke, diet weed, right? It's like,
yeah.
It's like they don't think it's actually something that works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you study comedy and you follow comedy, if you follow those who have been doing comedy like Dennis, like if you follow, then you'll see there's a huge.
And that's what I was going to kind of say is that sitting here with two comedians who I really respect. I mean, you're hilarious. A lot of times I feel like a lot of people don't. You're always running shows and everything, so people don't know how funny you actually are. And I know all of us who are your friends are always pushing you, like, dude, get on stage. You own the club. Right. Get on stage.
I don't know how funny he is. All I know is he gave me a check at the end of the week.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, once you look at that check, you'll realize. Once you look at the check, you'll realize, oh, he's making jokes. But I mean, and sitting here with you, Dennis, like. I guess whenever like I think of your comedy, I don't look at it like clean comedy. You're just a comedian.
I appreciate that because I don't bill myself as a clean comedian. It's not nothing. I don't. Right. When I started doing comedy, I didn't think of it that way. I thought I'd be more foul-mouthed because I kind of am off stage, and I just thought of it as more, bad. I thought of myself as a little bit of a badass or whatever. Can I say that on here?
Yeah.
But when I started doing comedy, and then I would do a joke, I would, when I was, and I'd have the F word in there, and then it would get a laugh, and then the next night, I'd say I'm going to tweak it out just because I was trying to figure things out, and I'd take it out, and the joke didn't work, and I would think, well, okay, so what are they laughing at? It's like a 5-year-old saying doo-doo or something, making other kids laugh. So I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I wanted to use the language a little bit better, and I worked at it that way. Worked to try to get the jokes another way. I see. I see some very dirty or whatever you want to call it, blue comedians that are very, very funny. I love them. I think they're wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
But for the most part, I'd say so many times, I see it as like I've seen people go up on stage and just go effing this, effing this, effing this, effing this, and it's kind of like steroids, like people that do steroids and bodybuilding, and say, okay, now we're gonna have a no steroid competition,
right,
and we'll see how well you do there. And then they go, oh, I can't do it. Yeah, it's because you got nothing, really.
Oh, okay, yeah,
you got nothing.
I got you.
And I think working more at the language and trying to figure out ways just it's kind of the tortoise and the hare thing where you just like you work at this and try to figure that out and go okay and use this word instead of those words, and you get better. You get better at the language. You get better at figuring out comedy, making jokes, writing jokes.
Yeah, I think it's great that you explain it like that, because you're not the first comedian that I've heard say like almost the same thing. I mean,
so
I've
heard stole it.
You stole it. You're a thief. You steal your jokes. That's why you're here. We're calling you
up.
I stole
my thoughts.
No, but it's because it's so true. I mean, that's the thing, is it's so true that if you go up and you do a joke and you listen to where the laugh is, and it's like, well, are they laughing at the word I said, or are they laughing at the whole premise of the joke? And I think that was one reason why I write clean. I want, because whenever I first started, it wasn't always clean, and then whenever I would do jokes that weren't really clean afterwards, I would just kind of be like, what was funny about that? Why were they laughing at it? Were they laughing at the way that I said it, or were they laughing at what I said? Right. Which is important, I think. I mean, as a new comedian, I think it's important to be funny in the way you say jokes, but there's definitely a difference there. So I'm glad to hear you say
for sure
what Steve's been saying, and what we've been hearing comedians say for a while is like, just write good.
Well, I did a stretch in New York after I moved to New York after I'd been doing comedy a year and a half. I started down in South Florida, and I went to New York. And at the time there, and I don't know now, but New York, there was a premium on cleverness, being clever and original, and sometimes that can be dirty, but it can just clever and original by themselves. There was a premium. It was appreciated by the other comedians and by the audiences, and I tried to write towards that, and that's what everybody tried to write towards that. It seemed like I look at it like, I mean, there's different ways to look at it, but like, there's only so many body parts and cavities in the body.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got 80% of the comedians doing jokes that all have to do with these body parts and stuff like that. And there's a whole other world of stuff out there. And then there's a smaller amount of comedians that have the rest of the universe to have fun with.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is important to say, like you were saying, I mean, comedy's comedy. Like if you're cussing through your whole set or whatever, if you're raunchy, whatever your comedy is, if it's funny and it's working, then it's comedy. But then also on the same side, like if we can just get up and do comedy without doing all that stuff, then it's all comedy. It's just the way that it comes out. But I do feel like being a clean comedian, you get more work. I mean,
like I said, I don't bill myself as a clean comedian, but I take pride. I do corporate events, and I do an hour, and they're very touchy, understandably about certain things. But I've always been. There's an older lady up front that looks like my aunt or something. I don't want to be talking about masturbation or something like that. I'm uncomfortable with it. Right. And but I do have some things that I do. I've worked the cruise ships, and sometimes they have these shows that are billed as adult shows. I have the family show, which I enjoy. I love. There's even kids up front and stuff like that. Most of the comedians, a lot of them have a hard time with that. Right. And I love them. I have fun with the kids, and I do 25 or 30 minutes. Yeah. I don't always love them because sometimes the kids are bouncing around. But then there's the other shows where they bill them as adult shows. I'm talking about certain cruise lines will do that, And I've heard people in the gym going, I won't go to the family show because they're going to the adult show because that's more spicy. And I'm like, they're kind of missing out because my family shows really, really is good and funny. Right. And then when I do the adult shows, which they call the adult shows, I've kind of learned, and I hate to even reveal this, but I guess it's okay, but I'll do something that's a little bit spicy up front. It's really soft, compared to whatever. But I'll just sort of trick them into like, yeah, that's right. This is the adult show, you came. And then I'll just do my act. Yeah, okay. The act that I want to do. And I've gotten good enough over the years that it's funny enough that the people that came wanting dirty or spicy, they don't even notice. You know what I mean? Sure. I've had people come up to me after shows to say thanks and compliment or whatever. And I've seen where someone goes, we appreciate that it was clean. And then there's a guy standing right behind him, and he's like shaking his head. He didn't even realize it. He doesn't like clean comedy. But he liked me. And I'm like, he doesn't even realize. He's like, wait a minute. Was that a clean show? Because I don't like clean shows.
See, and I get this a lot too. It's like everyone does. They don't see what I experience when I have people walk up to me and say the same thing. They're saying, I'm so glad that you had this here because of the fact that it was clean. I had such a great time with my family because it was clean. I was expecting something else, and it just hit me a different way, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting that feedback, but at the same time, we're battling the whole front of, it's just not funny because it's clean. And I'm like, where is this? Where has this start? Is it because church comedians come through and it becomes a thing where it's because it's churchy and it has to be church clean? And I think so. I think it definitely could be watered down a lot as far as comedy is. Oh, it's my ministry now, and so I'm here to give you laughs. It's
years
when the separation between the two is tough to say. Okay, well, I don't want to go over there to Gutty's because it's a Christian club, and it's like that's not what we've established. We're a club, period.
Yeah.
And then we've also had people say, I'll come to when it's a real club. And it's like, what do you mean by a real club? I want to know, what is your thought on comedy? Because we're a comedy club. Why do we have to prove ourselves just because we're doing clean? That's where the battle is. And it's interesting that when we had that conversation earlier that you didn't really see where that angle is coming from, because I don't think, have you ever experienced other comics say, the battle between clean and dirty?
Well, what I noticed over the years was there was this trend towards people wanting to be edgy. That was the big word. They were edgy, and they would talk about this and they would talk about that, and sometimes the things they were edgy, and they were because they would talk about these masturbation or some subjects. Right. I go, no, and that's not. I don't.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about that. I don't know why you think you're so edgy. You know what I mean? But and then also dirty language. I even feel weird saying dirty language because
I know. I'm saying the same thing. Yeah.
But I don't know what the heck. Foul language or whatever, and I use it sometimes. I use it sometimes, especially when I'm doing this or that. I don't handcuff myself that much to language wise. Right. I work hard and I use it selectively, But I've done shows where they brought me in for a show and no one told me that it was supposed to be clean. They just told me. They just got me because they think I'm a clean comedian and I can do the job, and I can. Yeah. But you got to tell me.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what I mean? Or we might be in a little bit of trouble. Somebody's got to tell me. But that's happened a few times. They just seen me on here, and they see what I do, and I go. They don't see the other stuff that I can do in a setting or what might come out of my mouth. Yeah. But that edgy thing, that became, the black leather jacket and the guy wearing the arm and going up and he's being tough and smoking a cigarette and he's doing it. But to me, edgy kind of became hacky. It became the new hacky. Oh, we've got enough edge. Okay, do what you want to do. What you want to do, but just.
Is it kind of like shock value now? Now everything's about shock. Shock jokes it's because now the culture is like you can't say a lot of stuff because you'll get canceled, and there's a lot of sense, and I get it. I get those who are like, you know what, you can't talk about these subjects, and you're not going to go on the stage. Okay, well, the same attitude. I have the same attitude where it's like, look, I don't want you to say these words, otherwise you can't go on my stage. Why is that hard to understand? It's like you don't want these specific subjects to be said on your stage. And you don't want them to say certain words, otherwise you'll cancel them out of your club. Well, the same here. I don't want these specific things on my stage because the people that we're reaching out to don't want to hear that, and they want to have a good time. So the difference is tough to navigate through.
It's all very tricky, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I appreciate the difficulties with it because everybody has a different idea about what's clean and what's not, and
different levels of clean.
Well, like you were saying, I mean, I feel like it is almost cuffing comedy by saying, clean comedy or dirty comedy. It's like in the end, it's just comedy's comedy. Can you just do your comedy in specific places? I mean, I think that's what it just really comes down to. I think sometimes, but I think you get a bad rep sometimes by saying we're a clean comedy club, but you're saying it not in a way of being like other comedy's not funny. You're just saying it in a way like everyone's welcome here. Whoever wants to come listen to comedy,
right.
you know, you can come in here and listen to comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it hurts you because sometimes other people may think like, oh, well, they don't like.
Well, I was talking with Dennis about it too as well. And we had Dennis Tooley. I was
going to say which Dennis.
Right? And it's like, well, even saying family friendly was like another thing.
Yeah.
You know, saying family friendly, it's like, well, is it really family friendly versus it's like, guys, what I'm saying is everybody's just come and have fun.
Just come
and have
fun.
It's like, just come and have fun. It's just a marketing thing where we have to make sure that we can separate, because the idea of the business is really creating a whole different side of comedy and reaching the demographic that nobody else, I feel, is tapping into, because they feel left out. You know, you're going to church, right? You're going to church and that's all you do. You don't have anything else to really go to because you're dedicated and devoted to your, you know, what you're doing at the church. And you're like, well, I don't want to go to something that kind of drags me back into that lifestyle that I chose not to be a part of.
Yeah.
Well, then, okay, cool. Come to this spot so that way you don't feel like you have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just
and
an
then
option.
It gets tricky to be like, we're not just for that crowd.
Exactly.
We're
not
for
just
everyone.
For the church. Right, exactly.
Because then that's where
exactly. We're just reaching
get,
out to people to say, you know, I want something where, you know, it's just a different option, different thing to go to, but have the same type of setting where, you know, I like to go and hang out at a club and, you know, hang out with everybody and have a good time. So it's like we're battling that whole thing. Sometimes it gets tricky because, you know, just by the simple word of saying clean or family friendly, immediately you get tagged. And it's like, and that's how it was when I was growing up. I was like, I do comedy, I do clean comedy, and I'm a Christian, but that doesn't mean I'm a Christian comic. You know what I mean? Like that label of you're a Christian comedian.
Well, again, it goes back to
that's just my lifestyle, dude.
Yeah.
It's just
putting labels and stuff. We're just doing comedy.
I'm just a comedian, and I like, you know, just like if I was a Buddhist, you know what I mean, or anything else. It's like,
I'm just doing
comedy. I just do comedy. And so,
well, it's probably because most Christians want to shove it down your throat. So
that's a good point. I mean, those are the extremes.
Welcome to the Laugh and Be Blessed podcast.
Right? Exactly. So I think that's where I wanted to get your side, Dennis, of what, because you've been in the game, you know, long enough to understand. You know,
what a nice way of calling him old.
No.
And you were like, I felt you pulling back. I felt you pulling back.
No, like he knows. I mean, because I want to understand it because, like you said, you know that I do comedy, and you just met him.
Right.
So look at the difference here now.
100%.
Like, you know, I do comedy, and you just met him too as well. So the difference now, I knew Dennis, right?
Yeah.
And so these other comics that I haven't seen yet that are coming to this to here, it's that understanding. Okay, I've studied. And I know those guys up there. Now, I don't know them personally, but I know who's up there.
Sure.
And then we were talking about how now there's just a new wave of comics. So who's the new wave of comedians that are coming through so that we can make sure that stays consistent with just bringing that same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That clarity of it.
You know what I think, too, is also because a lot of the comedians that have become famous and have done very, very well can work dirty, you know. To use examples like, I don't know if Pryor was dirty ever or whatever, but but Pryor could do 3 hours of clean, you know what I mean? And he learned that he could do, and same with Carl. I don't know if he got dirty, but some of these comedians that I know from New York they have albums and they get dirty. Yeah. So other younger comedians or newer comedians, they'll look at that and go, that's what I want to be. I want to be like that. Mm-hmm. And I go, well, you know what? It's kind of like, you know, Picasso learned how to draw and stuff first before he started putting the eyes on the other side and developing his own style. He knew how to draw and he knew perspective, and then he said, I'm going to do this, and it was like, but he learned the nuts and bolts of it. And I've seen, I think it's important to learn the nuts and bolts of it, and I think you learn it better when you just try to stay away from those words or topics, or try to find a newer way using the language to come up with something, and you get stronger. You get stronger as a comedian, and later if you want to do that, do that. You know, right. I do it sometimes.
Right.
But I've never seen anybody that just started that way, started dirty and raunchy and this subject matter, be able to come around to the other way and be able to do a half hour or an hour of cleaning. But I've seen it the other way. I've seen people that are clean and learn that and then go, I'm going to go like this. I can do a half hour of this over there. I've seen that happen, but I've never seen the reverse. I've never seen somebody else start. I've seen them intend to do that. I'm going to do this for a while, and then I'm going to tweak it up, and I'll work the,
Yeah, I've seen younger guys come to open mic, or older guys. I've just seen people come to open mic sometimes, and they'll go up and do pretty shocking jokes that the whole audience, you can just feel everyone just closing up, just like, ugh, like we don't want to hear you joke, especially if they go up and do like rape jokes. It's like, A, not a funny topic, B, we don't know you. So if you're going up telling these jokes, like maybe someone's tied up in your car, we don't know who you are. And then afterwards, whenever all the comedians will be hanging out and they'll sit with us and they'll ask, they're like, so how do you think we did? And we don't know you. So like, you came off kind of creepy to us. Well, Anthony Jeselnik can do jokes like this. It's like, but he has a platform that he's built where he can do that.
Along the same lines, sometimes I'll see a comedian that'll tell a very clever joke, a clever joke, and they'll go, oh, it's over the audience's head, or whatever like that. But sometimes things are more clever than they are funny. I've come up with things myself, and it's more clever than it is funny. Funny is its own thing. Things can be clever and be very funny. Things can be dirty and be very funny. Things can be shocking and be very funny. But just because something is shocking doesn't make it funny. You know what I mean? And people think, I can shock. I could write shocking stuff all day long.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I can do an hour tomorrow night of new shocking stuff. Doesn't make it funny. Even clever. Clever is easier than funny. I can be, you can come up with clever. It doesn't make it funny. Funny is hard, and any of those things can be funny, but it doesn't make them funny.
Well, that's interesting because I've just been talking actually with Blake about this here recently as he shoves all that popcorn down his throat. That was like I wish this was a video podcast because that looked so weird. But the majority of my comedy is I tell stories. That's just what I've always done. I just love telling stories. And Blake's kind of starting to tell stories on stage. And what I feel like, and I don't know because I'm a new comedian, so it's hard for me to give advice. I can just say what I feel like works for me, is that if you can make the story interesting first and captivate the audience to where they're invested in the story, then the funny stuff can come. And I know that's kind of weird sometimes, like being a comedian to say that, but I came from ministry. So I was a Pentecostal preacher for a few years before I started doing comedy.
I don't even know what that means.
Pentecostal? Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It means something religious.
Yeah. Most people just think that we handled snakes. And that's not true. But, it's just, I was a preacher. So it was, you have to be, if it's 9 o'clock in the morning and your audience doesn't want to be there, but they feel like they're going to burn eternally if they're not there, how are you going to keep their attention?
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's like you gotta. So if you can be interesting in whatever sermon you're giving, then at least give them a reason to be there, because most of them don't want to be at church anyway.
Have you tried masturbation bits and stories at the church? At 9 a.m. at the service?
Yeah, those always went over great.
Pass around while you're passing around the basket or whatever.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm not a preacher anymore. You get kicked out quick.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right about that.
Well, tonight, so we're sitting here. We just did the open mic. So Gutty's Comedy Club does open mic every Monday night. If you're interested, if you're listening, you're around Indianapolis or Central Indiana at all, check them out on Facebook. Definitely come through. It's a great mic. But we did the open mic tonight, and you took over for a while, which I think the comedians were okay with.
Just like ready.
We're like, yes. The moment that you were just like, anyone have any questions? Like, I looked around and could just see all of us and just like, yes.
Would you explain to the listening audience what you mean by took over?
He basically told us all to shut up and we're listen. So you did some new jokes, which was great to see a professional work on new material and see that it's it never changes. We're always having to do this kind of craft. Yeah. But then once you were done with your new jokes that you wanted to do, you had a little bit of time left, and you just asked. You said, "Does anyone in here have any questions for somebody who's been doing it for a while?"
Yeah. I hope that's the way I worded it.
Yeah, and it was absolutely. I didn't feel like, and you multiple times were like, "I can be done. Does anyone have any more questions?" We were not letting you get off the stage. We were like, I even looked over at Steve at one point and was like, "You ask him a question now." Like I want him to keep talking.
I could talk shop forever. But I knew that I don't know. I went up in the middle and I knew there was people waiting to go on, and so and their stage time is precious to people. So I appreciate you saying that. But
no, I mean it really. Well, I mean, there's not. How often do we get to have just basically a free class? And that's all it was. Is that we were able to ask you questions, and I really appreciated the way that you approached it by still making it entertaining. Like making jokes about Griffin and everything. Like it was still funny. So the people that were here that were not comedians, were
I
still
knew
laughing.
I knew there was people that paid. I knew there was people that paid, and I think that's our job, is to entertain people. I want to entertain everybody. There's lots of times when I'll be in a room, a comedy club, anywhere, and there's comedians on stage and they're telling jokes for the back of the room, like for their comedian, their buddies in the back, and I'm like, no, there's people in here. That's the easy things to make your friends in the back of the room laugh. Not that it's easy, but it's easier than making these people that came into. That's your job, is to make them laugh, not your buddies in the back. You can do a little bit of that too. It's important to include the whole room. I want the waitresses laughing. I want the people. I want everybody laughing. But my job is to make the people that paid laugh.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you do the other stuff to get the room this way, but you don't ignore the people that paid.
Yeah, well, and I think you did a great job of doing that. Of whenever we would ask a question, you would riff for a second, like on who was asking the question or something, to keep the jokes coming. But I thought it was just cool to be able to hear, like Griffin's, asking you like, when is a bit done?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And I think all of us, because I would say the majority of the room in here, we're all under 10 years in comedy.
Yeah.
Most of us under 5, probably. Mm-hmm. And so we're all thinking these things all the time. We're always thinking like, when do I write? How often do I write? Or like with I think the thing that I struggle with personally is the majority of the things that I work on stage. So I have to force myself to sit down to write, because I don't really write. I have ideas, I have thoughts, I might jot them down, think on them for a little bit, and that's why I asked you the question, do you still record your sets? Because I always do, since I feel like I'm writing on stage. I don't want to miss something that I didn't write down. But then if I do write it down, I feel like, I don't want to miss something that I wrote down. So then it's almost like I'm thinking about a script instead of just being in the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think when I started adding writing to it, because of the fact that I'm more animated on stage, and because I'm animated, I can create more. Like stuff just happens and it becomes real, and it's like, okay, I can grab this and I make it into a character, or I can take this and change that. Because I'm animated, it makes it easier for me to write like that on stage. But when I added writing to that, then it enhanced it even more, because of the fact that I took that chunk and I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. I can actually now create while I'm at the same time I'm reading it. I can think, what can I do? How can I act this out?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you do a mixture. So you do like, you have thoughts, you get up on stage, you do your thoughts, and then you record them, I'm assuming, and then whenever you listen to it back, then you write it out.
Then I write it out, because when I go up there and I do like a joke, I want to feel my voice. Like I don't want it to just be, I'm writing a joke and I'm done. Like I just wrote this down today. Now I want to make it feel like myself. Yeah. So that way my voice is out and I'm like, okay, I would say it like this, not how I write it out. Because sometimes when I'm writing, I just write extra stuff on there that I would never say if I'm talking with you guys.
Sure.
But I write it out because grammatically and all this, you know what I mean? You get all correct with your writing. Yeah.
It's okay it's okay to overwrite too. Just overwrite a whole bunch of stuff and then whittle it down. Right. Like the one new thing that I tried tonight, the longer one. I never did it before. I wanted to just say the words, and I stumbled through it here and there. I wanted to say the words, and I forget what I was going to say about it. Does anybody else know? But I overwrite it and then bring it down. But sometimes people say they do their best writing on stage, and I go, well, you don't have that much time on stage. You have a lot of time off stage. So I do my best writing off stage, and then I find out if it's funny on stage, and then I have to bring it down and go, okay, this does work, or this works better than that. Right. But
yeah, I think as a new comedian, I'm just learning that, because it has been going up and doing these ideas and then finding out what's funny on stage. But I don't know if Andy Beningo, I've done a few shows with him, and he'll ask me, and now that he knows me personally, he'll ask me, like, after show, he's just like, how much are you writing? Yeah. And, you know, because he knows I'm going to be like, not enough. Yeah. And he's like, you need to write more. Yeah. And he's like, you're funny, I like what you're doing, but if you write, then you're just going to get better. Yeah. So it's almost like, if I continue down the path that I'm going, I'll just become like a lazy comedian. Like, I could just be like, oh, I'm just going to go up and be funny on stage, which may just keep me where I'm at. But I don't want to just stay where I'm at. I want to work consistently, and I want it to be my career. So if I can do that and then pair it with honing that down and actually, you know, writing it out, then so that's great.
One of the things I would have told the gang here, the crowd, or the group, after it was over, but I didn't get a chance, was I heard a lot of jokes or near jokes or tried jokes that were funny or close to done that didn't work with the crowd tonight, because they were just kind of like these standalone jokes where sometimes the guy telling it looked down at the piece of paper and brought it up and did the joke, and I'm watching and go, it doesn't have much of a shot at working like that, you know. But I would never throw them away as a comedian. Don't ever throw anything away. Just keep it, because what you're doing here is working the muscles. You're getting better and you're getting stronger, and then later you'll go back and you'll look at that notebook and you'll go, oh, I know how to make that work. I know how to make it work. And you're not even sure how you learned. It's just all the work that you put in is kind of comprehensive, and you just become better at it because you tried this, you tried that. Even when, you know, they would say, Edison would say he would try 10,000 things and they didn't work. For the inventor Edison, he would say, oh, I learned 10,000 things that don't work. Right. But when you try bits that don't work, you're learning something. You learn that bit didn't work. I saw a bunch of things where I thought, oh, he just needs a couple of things to go around it that are the same topic, and that would be a good piece. And then later, if he doesn't throw it away, he or she doesn't throw it away and keeps it in their notebooks, later they'll go up to that and go, oh, I know how to make that work, and I got a place for it. And then that's when the growth starts to happen. We go, oh, I got a little bit of a chunk here, you know, I got a little bit of a chunk here, I got like a little 2-3 minute chunk here, and I can put it with that, you know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on memorizing your set versus bringing up notes, like on an open mic or just in general?
Well, it's sometimes. I knew a guy one time. He was kind of started when I did, and he quit comedy because he couldn't remember he couldn't remember enough stuff to be able to do more than 10 minutes, and I've used mnemonics. It's a fancy word for memory, but it's spelled M-N-E or some N-M. I don't even know how it's spelled. Can't remember.
But it works.
But
obviously it works.
And there's things, you can read books about how to remember things. Yeah. And if that's your difficulty, is remembering things, then you have a hole in your game, as they say in poker, you know, like you're always folding deuces or whatever. You got buddies that go, look, this is what you're doing, and you have to fill in that hole. You got to work on your weakness, and if that's your problem, you got to learn how to memorize things, not just accept the fact that you have a bad memory, because it can be improved. And there's lots of memory techniques. I use a combination of them.
Okay.
I don't want to give too much away here to this non-paying audience. But
some of them pay
for the podcast.
And we just want to say thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you very much.
But I'll tell you, if anyone's smart enough to listen and be paying attention and taking, you know, there's image. You can remember images easier in your head than you can text. You know what I mean? I have these little maps that I make up, and a picture of the sun will be the stuff I want to talk about, weather. I can see the whole there's a grid in my mind. I draw it. I can see it when I'm up there. I don't have to do the same stuff in the same order all the time.
Right.
Sure.
If you don't do these sorts of techniques, you have to kind of go up, and it becomes sort of rote.
Yeah.
And when it becomes rote, it becomes kind of unfunny.
Yeah.
So I like to bounce around. You do this, do that, do this, and this, that. And besides that, I don't just use one technique because that's just for chunks. But if I come up with
And sometimes you forget that technique, right?
well, yeah, but if I come up with 3 or 4 new pieces, new jokes that kind of work together, and then I'll say, what is the key word to them? And one might be car, and then one might be earpiece, and one might be elephant. I'm just making this up.
Sure, yeah.
And then one might be phone, right? And I go, okay, I'm going to put these together. I'm going to put these in order, and I'm going to use the first letter, C-E-E-P. It says keep, and I get to it, and I go, keep. In my head, I kind of know where the next bits are coming. I'm not just doing a joke and then having to do the next joke that jumps in my head. I kind of know where I'm going.
Yeah.
This is when I'm trying new bits or I'm making a new order of things. And what that does is it makes you kind of relax when you're up there and you're going boom, boom, and you can perform the things better and you can enjoy yourself more and enjoy the laughs rather than what's next. I'm always loading the chamber, I call it, like what's the next bit going to be?
Yeah.
And that's not that much fun.
Yeah.
But if you make these little chunks and you go, okay, this and this and this. So those are a couple of the techniques that I use in conjunction. And I showed a buddy of mine one time the images that I had on a graph, and he goes, oh, that's too advanced for me. And he just kind of rejected it.
Yeah.
And I go, no, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But he rejected it because it looked like hieroglyphics to him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I go, that's the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I shared on one of our podcasts on Pops and Regan show, I shared
Shameless plug.
Mind Palace.
Pops and what?
Pops and Regan.
Regan?
Dennis Tully is Pops and
Where can
I'm the
where
Regan.
can people?
Oh, the
look
Regan. I
that
thought
up?
you said Regan. I thought you said the Regan.
So I shared the same technique that I use.
The
which is
Regan.
it's mind mapping.
Yeah, I
So-
do that too. I didn't want to tell
And
them.
it was,
I do that too.
My bad.
No.
What I'm
You're-
thinking is just because what helps me is now that I have the club here and I know how the club is laid out.
Well, do you want to explain?
Okay. So basically, what I do is I take the same type of approach where I think of these images in my joke.
Yeah.
So one joke is about my family, right? And I like to have family together. So what I think of, well, actually, I'll say this. I start off with the chapstick joke, where I forget my chapstick, and then it's like, or I grab my daughter's Barbie chapstick on accident because I was rushing to get here, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel sexy right now. So I take chapstick and I put it on table number 1, and so I see chapstick on that table.
Yeah.
That's my first joke.
Yeah.
So it triggers my memory to remember that joke. Now I know what it's like. I know how to act it out. But at the same time, I'm seeing, okay, that is, table 1 has chapstick on it. So that's my first joke.
Yeah.
And so I go to each table and I place a specific, image of my joke on there so that I know that's my next joke. And I can look at all the different tables and just think, while I'm panning the crowd, I'm looking at table 5 and like, I might be able to hit that joke instead of this one.
That's right.
So
it frees you up. It frees your mind up.
And so that's why I'm more creative on stage when I'm able to give myself those images and say, okay, I'm focusing on the images. Not really, I hear the crowd, I hear the laughs, that's great, but I'm seeing, okay, I'm going to table 5 right now. And just because, and it creates that comfort, like you're saying, because I'm more visual, and because I'm a creative person, visually I can see my jokes. It makes it easier for me to, instead of verbally every single word.
The audience would really be surprised to see what's going on
What's
in their minds.
happening in
If they only knew, you know what I mean? Like there's times when I'll be getting to the point the 5 or 6 minute point where I'm really getting to a joke that kind of brings me to the next level or something. When I have a structured set like that, and then I'll be up and then here comes the waitress to take order from a big table, and I'll go, oh, I don't want to do do that piece right now. I'll be wasting it because of the distraction factor, right? So I'll just kind of like tread water and do a couple of bead jokes and the whole time I'm just kind of watching. I'm watching. And how long is this waitress going to take to get that guy's drink? Get him a beer or whatever. And they're taking forever. And you want the cheese fries or whatever, And then finally, and I'm just treading water, doing this joke, that joke, and then they go away. Finally, she goes away, and then I go, okay, now I can do that, and boom, it does bring him to the next level. I'm like, that was pretty good, but it's not easy to do that. You learn that after a while,
Right, and I think that's where memorization versus really sticking to just the words verbatim. It's for me. It seems like there's a battle there.
Like it hinders you.
Yeah, I don't want that. Like I'd rather it be natural and organic in my voice rather than it being.
I did the same thing that you're talking about, but I did it with the house that I grew up in. And what did you call that word?
Mind mapping.
Mind mapping. Dennis, your dad had a different word for Magic Kingdom. I don't know what he. But
no one ever knows what his dad's talking about.
But it doesn't matter. But I didn't even have a word for it. I didn't even have a name for it. But when I would come into my house, there was some trees there, and there was like, okay, that'll be the weather piece, and then up by the mailbox, which was up by the side of the house, that was the bit I did about stupid things that I do, and there was so I can kind of just walk, and then I go into this. We used to go in the side door, and in the side door there was a little pegboard where we hung hats, and I then I would combine things, and I would put up on the pegboards, the letters like CAMP. I could see the word camp, and each of them represented maybe a bit or maybe a chunk, you know what I mean? And so, but it relaxed me to go, okay, boom, 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 and then I'm going over here and I'm doing this. And then later in the set I go, I haven't been to the back bedroom yet. I haven't been out to my garage.
Exactly.
So you can, it's more like a menu that you can pick and choose from rather than having to go in the same. And so many times you do a set and you get thrown off by, maybe, things happen. Things happen, and people that have to go in the same order and this kind of thing, they really get thrown, and I get thrown less. Because of these techniques.
Well, and I think that's great because also maybe you forgot at one point to go to the guest bedroom, and then you're like, how am I going to get to the guest bedroom from where I'm at now? And you're just like, oh, just take the hallway. You know what I mean? It's like you have a joke for that, so where you're able to go that direction with it. Yeah,
exactly. That's funny because I can see where people are like, well, that's too much. But if you make it where it's so personal, like you can go back and remember, growing up and your next door neighbor and his name and what happened there and how he punched me and I got into a fight with him. You can get into that so much easier than, well, let me write about what happened when I.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Also, I feel like the
it's
people,
so much more personal.
The ones that are going to be like, that's too much, are also probably doing 20 minutes versus an hour and a half. You know what I mean? It's like because that's my fears. Like I'm at 40 minutes right now, and I'm like. Sometimes I'm like, what you're saying, like it's if I don't do it in order, sometimes
you're running out of bullets.
I'm like, okay, well, how if I miss this whole part about this whole section, well, how am I going to get back to it?
Right.
And
transitions.
So being able to have these tools to be like, because I mean, I can't. I'm at 40 minutes right now, and I'm just like, wow. What's an hour going to be like? Like, man, you know what I mean?
But that is the whole process. The same process as your 5-10 minute process. You're going, your 10 minute is 10, and you're like, wow, I hit 10 minutes, and then I'm going to add another 5 minutes, and now I'm 15. You know what I mean? It's the same process because you're knowing how to navigate through those 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you also got to just figure out how is it all going to fit in your head. And I have a big head. Don't get me wrong, but like, how am I going to get it to fit in there? So like, these tools are perfect. Like,
let me add this to it because before GPSs, because nobody knows where anything is, how to get anywhere. Anybody just push the satellite and that'll take me there. But before that, say you're going to. You got a new girlfriend and you're going to drive to her house and you need directions and you got to make a right on Bird Road and a left on this and she lived in it. You got to do this and you got to do that and you got to write it down. You got to write it down and make a map. And then the first night you follow the directions and the next night you follow the directions again and the next night you don't need the directions and then you find yourself driving there without even thinking about it. You go, how the hell? I was thinking about something else. And you drive. So it's the same sort of thing. People that think this is way too complicated. No, it becomes sort of the same thing. It becomes almost, I don't want to say effortless, but easier.
Yeah. I think for since you have preached before and you've been through that, right? And so you prepare.
I really haven't.
But what I'm saying is, okay,
No,
so like when my dad would know the whole over, like the point that he's gonna make that day, right? So I have this whole point that I want to make, right? And so you have a topic, you have the reason why I'm going up on stage. For me, it's about family. I'm all about family. My whole thing is I want to bring you into my world. So my whole focus is on that specific topic. So if I can remember at least what I want to say that night, makes it easier for me to remember my jokes, because my whole point here is to introduce you to what I want to my world. You know what I mean?
No, and
instead of just I want to slang out jokes, I want to tell you something.
Yeah,
and
you
it's
have a
because
topic.
Story, right. So it makes it easier for me to know, okay, tonight, even if I'm doing 15 minutes, I want to overall make sure that I make this point strong, that I'm all about family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm all about, weird stuff, or I'm all about, just these specific topics help me remember. If I can hit that point home, then my jokes can.
It's funny you say it like that, because on the way up here, I was listening to Dusty Slay's podcast. We're having a good time. You should check that out. I was listening to Dusty's podcast, and he said something very similar to that, which struck a chord with me, because he said almost word for word what I learned while training, quote unquote, to be a minister. Sitting in minister classes. And what they would say is that, your sermon, think of it as a tree. And you're going up.
Wait, this is too complicated.
It's like, you're going up the
I can't be throwing trees into this.
Yeah. Weather. No, I'm just kidding. But, it's like you're going up the tree, and then all the branches come out. So you go out on these branches, but just make sure you're always coming back to the tree. And it was weird, because that's how I learned how they taught us to preach, was like, you do this, you can come out. Just make sure you come back to your topic.
Right.
So that way you can get to your point. And Dusty said almost word for word that on his podcast today, and I was just like, which is close to what you're saying. That
did you steal it from?
You stole
Dusty?
From you guys. This is all my podcast is you guys just stealing things and bringing them to my audience.
Right.
So. Well, before we finish up, so the show, my podcast is called Laugh and Be Blessed, and whenever I have people on, I just always like to ask, like, what does it mean to you to be blessed? So.
Oh man!
Not to put you on the spot.
No. I feel that for me, being blessed is having relationships.
Also, doesn't have to be religious or spiritual
it's
at
all. Good.
It's just what it means.
It's cool, man.
Am I going to be? Am I going to be put on the spot?
Yeah, that's why I had him go first. So you can think on it.
So we'll let these other guys go first.
I think, man, friendships for me is a blessing. Yeah. Being able to be a part of something that connects us is a blessing to me. Whether you're a comic, where you're coming, from, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to come and do this. I want to learn how to do clean. That's a connection that I really appreciate. Is those who are just they want to work and they want to know what it's like. That relationship is important to me. And then that direct relationship and friendships with everybody here at Open Mic, and just learning other comics, local comedians. That relationship is so important. And then for me, I'm blessed because of the fact that I can provide, just a place,
we're blessed,
a stage. You know what I mean? Just seeing that love and seeing that relationship it's a blessing to me to be able to. And then of course I got my kids, my wife,
for sure, yeah.
But for me, that's like super. This right here, right now, is the blessing for me. Is being able to know you guys.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
It's not the same for me.
What does it mean to be blessed? Like, what do you think of whenever you?
This is an easier question for preachers and stuff to answer than comedians. But
that's why I ask it.
But I've become a little bit addicted to YouTube. I listen to a lot of different things on there. I enjoy it, and all kinds of different things. And I will sometimes, I don't want to say feeling sorry for myself, but I'm on the road and I'll be in a hotel and I wish I wasn't, and I missing my family or my lady or home cooking and that kind of thing, and I'm like, this sucks, or whatever. Yeah. And then I'll listen to a podcast where a guy talks about being in the hole in prison, and I'll go, holy, yeah. I'm okay. I'm bitching because the water doesn't get hot enough in the shower, and I'm like, no, it's fairly warm, you know what I mean? So those sorts of things I mean, I'm embarrassed that I need that sort of thing to appreciate those things, but it helps me. It helps me. I remember one time I was on a cruise ship, and I was in like luxury, and I was listening to this guy talk about his experience in a Vietnamese prison camp, and I'm living in complete luxury. I'm lonely. I don't have any friends around, but I was like, I can deal with loneliness. You know what I mean? I have people someplace. They're just not here with me, and I can go get some cookies if I want to. You know what I mean? So those sorts of things kind of bring home my blessings to me. You know.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Well, I appreciate both of you guys doing this. Honestly, thank you so much. What do you have coming up?
I'm going to Peoria. Oh, I'm part of the Clean Comedy Challenge here. I'm going to do a workshop or something like that, Q&A, and perform at it. Leslie Townsend, she's been putting that on for a few years, and that's moved around, and she found a home here at least for this year. And that's great. And then I'm going to Peoria to work a theater there on Saturday night.
Nice.
Is there like a website people can go to find your schedule or anything?
Well, I have DennisRegan.com, which I was able to acquire at a certain point, but I don't have a calendar on there, and for a couple reasons. One, for the last couple years, I've been working cruise ships a lot and doing corporate events, and those aren't things that people could go to.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it was like if I had something that looked like, and I put it up, if I put a calendar up, and it looked like this guy's only got one gig in the next 2 years, so it looked bad. So I didn't have but people write and go, where the heck can we find you?
Yeah.
And I said, just follow me on Twitter, but I don't have a calendar on there with much in there. Maybe I should do that. I do have quite a few things going on for the next year, so you just give me an idea to have a calendar of my events. I got a call a couple of a month or so ago, and the guy said he wanted me to come to South Dakota in January of next year, and I hadn't even booked much. You know, after COVID, I hadn't booked. I go, South Dakota in January. I said, I'll do it for $1 billion, you know, because I'm a Florida boy and now I live in California. But I'm going to go up there and do like a festival in January, and I'm looking forward to that, and a bunch of other stuff in between.
Awesome. So Twitter's probably one of the best places to find out where you're going to be for people.
And I have a Facebook fan page.
Okay.
I guess a fan page, and I put a lot of comedy on there too. I have a YouTube channel called That Darn Dennis, which I put a lot of videos that are different from my stand-up, and they're actually, the videos are kind of different from each other. YouTube's kind of hard for independent producers like myself. So a lot of things have been on there for a few years and only have a few thousand views. But I also put those videos on Facebook, so my Facebook fan page, people can go on there and kind of scroll down and they can see the videos, or they can see me on YouTube. It's called, did I say it already, That Darn Dennis?
Yeah. Perfect. All right, Steve, what's going on at Gutty's?
Gutty's is pretty much every single week, man. Mondays our open mic. Thursdays our improv team plays every second and fourth Thursday, and we also have karaoke that night too as well. And then Friday, Saturday is our prime time, so we have this week is going to be the Clean Comedy Challenge, and then next week is going to be Joe Byers from Hot Breath podcast too as well. So, I mean, we got a lot of cool stuff going on. Again, we're just going to keep pressing and keep.
You're forgetting about a really big thing that's happening with Gutty's right now that you guys just talked about.
Yeah, we are opening another location in Minnesota.
That's a big deal.
Edina, Minnesota is our new location with Kyle Yamada. And, I'm excited about September.
That's great. You know, I have a winter home in Minnesota.
All right.
Come through.
Yeah.
And a summer home in Arizona.
You have to open up in Arizona too. September 10th and 11th, Bonehampton's going to open up there for
Oh, nice. Who's featured for him?
Who's featuring?
Who's featured for Bonehampton
Who's coming up to Minnesota? Yeah, bro.
Jake Rubadue heard of him.
Jake, yeah. So,
I'm
is it Minneapolis or where is it?
It's about maybe 15 minutes away from that, from Minneapolis. So Edina's a little. It's like Carmel, Indiana. It's it's up there, but we've been able to do the same setup at the South Des Moines.
Perfect.
So it's actually a little bigger than the one that's here in Indiana. So we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Nice. So
decorating that bad boy.
Gutty'sComedyClub.com. You can get all the information there, or download the app.
Exactly.
The Gutty's app.
If you download the app right now is only specific for Indiana, but you can actually get Minnesota tickets are going to be available probably the end of this week.
Perfect.
And then you'll be able to purchase tickets for that coming show. So
that's awesome. Great to hear. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Fun,
definitely, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, buddy.
More work.
I enjoyed my
More work. You're right.
I enjoyed my weekend here very much. Good crowds.
It was great to have you, for sure.
So book him there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to book him.
That's what we're getting at. That's what we're getting at.
That's what I was hitting at.
Yeah, we want to. I know you got stuff to do. We want a commitment right now on air.
I got him.
I'll put it on my calendar.
He'll put it on his calendar.
Put it on my calendar.
Post it on Twitter.
All right. Well, thanks guys for doing this very much. Thanks for everybody for listening to this. Thanks to Blake and Jake for hanging out in the background.
Thanks.